Hi guys and welcome to another Whisky Geek review. My name's Ben and today I'm looking at the Benromach 10-year-old. Now this is a bottle of whiskey which I accidentally purchased. I was eyeing up the 100 proof and hastily chucked something in my basket and ordered it, and this is what turned up. Initially I was disappointed in myself more than anything else, but then when I opened the bottle, that disappointment quickly subsided. So my last two reviews have been a little bit disappointing. I'm trying to mix it up and bring something which I'm actually a little bit more enthusiastic to share with you. And this is the one. Now I'm going to try not to go off on too many tangents or little rants about this whiskey or Benromach as a distillery, but that may not happen, may not work. That smell immediately. Nice. So Benromach, they are owned by Gordon MacPhail. Gordon MacPhail started as a company, I believe, when most distilleries were producing alcohol to go into blends. Single malt wasn't really a big thing, and so Gordon and MacPhail were the official bottlers for lots of distilleries. They reached a point, made a decision that actually having their own distillery would be great for business, giving them the control to do what they wanted with their own single malt. Now they're based up in Elgin, which is northeast near Inverness. So Benromach is very local to them, which is fairly convenient. But they first, I think, they tried to buy Strathisla, but they got gazumped by about £1,000 back then. They were offering 70,000 for the distillery. Someone else bought it for 71. So they ended up with Benromach. You shout.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were shouting for Daddy, weren't you?
Yeah.
Ugh. And Daddy's trying to do a whiskey video. Don't press my buttons.
Yeah, so.
No, don't press my buttons.
Yeah.
I've completely forgot what I was talking about.
Sure.
So, do you want to have a sniff?
Yeah.
Ready? Sniff. Does it
So great.
smells great.
Yeah.
That's good. Oh, you turned it off. So now you can kind of see why I haven't really made much content for a couple of years. He has grown up a lot and he's sometimes tough to keep up with. The Benromach 10 has recently been rebranded. I'm a little cynical of a lot of the rebranding that's gone on recently. I feel like distilleries have not only taken the opportunity to tart up the boxes and the packaging, but they've also kind of compromised on quality. I don't particularly like the new look, but I do trust Gordon and MacPhail not to compromise on their quality and not to betray their ethos, their well-established ethos and trust with consumers like us. So I'm hoping the new bottle, the content isn't all that different, and I will verify that at some point, I'm sure. There's this interesting kind of savoury funk, kind of similar to Springbank maybe, that I always find in Benromach whiskies, and similar to Springbank, it gives it an extra level, an extra depth. It's savoury, grungy maybe, it's an oiliness. It's really quite nice and gives the whiskey an extra characteristic. It's dense, there's a lot to unpack. Now I was lucky to visit the distillery back one of the last times I was in Inverness, which was a couple of years ago now. Didn't get much footage because it was a rushed visit, didn't give me much warning. But there was a few things that I did notice or pick up whilst I was at the distillery that I think they all contribute, they all come together and contribute towards this characteristic. They have a very traditional ethos and approach to making whiskey. Lots of the process is, or almost all of the process is, hand controlled rather than being automated. They gently peat the malt. They're going for this traditional Speyside profile. Back when most of the kiln drying of malt was started with a wood fire but topped up with peat, even in Speyside. Lots of the Speyside distilleries now have taken an approach where they compromise on that and go for the fruitier, lighter, easier to sell flavours. But I have a preference for this style of whiskey, I guess. Slow fermentations, they manually monitor and set the cuts from the stills, which I feel perhaps gives them more control to steer things towards an oily, a deeper, darker flavour. And the casks that they only use first fill casks, whether it's first fill bourbon or first fill Sherry, it's never tired wood, refill, old casks, which I think, even though this is only 43%, it speaks a lot to the fact that it's so dense with flavour, because it's not using tired wood. It's fresh, more flavoursome wood. Oh, and they also fill their casks to almost overflowing. At first I was a little almost miffed that there was so much whiskey, but at that point it's only new make spirit, so it's not got a huge amount of value, but it was going all over the floor. And they said, well, it doesn't matter to us, we want to get the most out of this wood. The wood is very expensive to us. So they fill it right to overflowing, jam a bung in, and then chuck it all in dunnage warehouses. So it's all close to the floor, close to dirt basically, and very cool and moist. So this all comes together, I think, different parts of it culminating in this characteristic, this oiliness, this grunginess, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, let's actually look at the whiskey. First things first, it's a lovely crisp gold. I've got it down as a shade 12 Australian Muscat. The nose is really interesting. Like I've said, it's very dense. There's both fruity elements and this very earthy peat vying for attention. And it takes a savoury turn. You get some fainty spirit and like a smoked paprika, or even a kind of faint shellfish. There's apricots and pears, a caramel flavour, malty and a touch of dry grass. It's very dense and there's a lot to unpack. I think I've got 3 different sets of notes for this whiskey, different points in the bottle, but each time there's different prominence, there's different elements, and it's a whiskey that keeps on giving, and you can sit with it. Even at 43%, you can sit with it, unpack it, and just enjoy it for a good while. The palate is thick as well. A lot vying for attention, a lot trying to grab at you, and there's a savouriness to it still, clinging oil, a warmth, a kind of alcohol prickle to it. But there are sweet tones to it as well. It's a little bittersweet. You've got apricots, you've got dry grass, meadows, it becomes kind of herbaceous. Hazelnuts, and barley, and a touch of caramel as well. I would say the palate's a small step down from the nose. Not that it's letting it down, just there was a little more excitement perhaps on the nose. On the finish, that herbaceous note really grows. It almost becomes kind of hoppy. There's a little bitterness that comes in, that earthy peat, maybe some whiffs of barbecue smoke linger on, and there's a gentle oak behind it as well. Touches of sweetness. Not quite fruity, more of the caramel side of things. So I've rated this one a 76%. It's getting there with that excitement and that engagement for me. It's touching on an almost Campbelltown-esque funk. I feel like they're not compromising on the distillery character. It's savoury and oily, dense flavours shifting about and struggling to form, a lot developing to explore. Overall, a very enjoyable bottle, and one that I'm going to be happy to replace when it comes up at the right price. This is one that really does tick the value proposition box for me. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this whiskey review. If you have, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers! Are you taking over, are you?
Yeah.
What can you tell everyone about whiskey?
Really good.
Whiskey's good?
Yeah.
Do you like to smell whiskey?